Hello and welcome back to the NUFC Opinion Blog for another fan feature interview. Today I'm joined by another True Faith writer in Stephen Ord. Stephen, how are you doing today?
Not too bad, Don. How are you?
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you for coming on the show.
No problem.
Firstly, with a good win against West Ham at the weekend, and obviously Fulham failing to win against Arsenal in the last few seconds of the game, how far away would you say we now are from safety?
I hate agreeing with Steve Bruce because it's something that nobody ever really wants to do at the
Ooh.
moment. But I would say we're 1 win away, Daniel. I would say we're 3 points away. I think, I think it's very easy for us as well, though, to tend to switch off and go, "Oh, well, it's all right. We've got Sheffield United towards the end." But I think the one position we don't want to be in, and the reason why I think we'll probably need 3 more points is you want to be at least 4 points ahead of Fulham before we go at them on the final day of the season.
Yeah.
Also, Sam Allardyce has got a bit of a history of an escapologist. I think there were 7 points adrift West Brom with 6 games to go, or Sunderland, sorry, with 6 games to go, and he kept 8 points adrift with 6 games to go, and he kept them up. I think they ended up finishing 14th actually. So he's got a history of being able to do it. And the last thing we want is a smiling Big Sam on the final day of the season, having relegated us.
No,
but it was a great win against West Ham. It really was. We should probably caveat that with the first half an hour of the second. Sorry, from 47 to 82 minutes was absolutely appalling from them.
That's what I'm going to get into in the next question. In the next question, I was about to ask. Obviously, we beat West Ham as we mentioned there, but were you disappointed in the way that we allowed our initial 2-goal lead to slip, especially against 10 men as well?
Yeah, well, I know when we did the Writers' Block feature for True Faith, I kind of said, my heart said 2-1 Newcastle, my head said 3-1 West Ham. And I've got to be honest, I think there was a few chats on the WhatsApp group when it was 2-0 down to 10 minute half time that like 4-0 suddenly seemed like a possibility. But in classic Newcastle United style, to manage to throw away basically what was a commanding position.
Yeah.
I've got to say that, I think it probably hinges a couple of things. I did the player ratings for True Faith, and one of the things that I thought Almiron in the second half was really poor. A couple of times when he could play passes, he didn't get the weight quite right. Took shots from angles where other people were open, and I really rate Mickey. I think he can be a really good player for us. But I just felt he, and with Sir Maximum clearly carrying something. I think it looked like he was carrying it from about 5-10 minutes in, and it seems to be alleged that knock that he took kind of right at the beginning of the first half had an impact on him. As soon as we had a couple of chances and they didn't go in, you kind of felt West Ham were going, okay, well, they haven't scored a third yet, so come back at it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously, it was good that we actually got the win in the end, but the way that we seem to just get in these positions and then just sort of sit back and give up, I think that happened against Burnley quite early on in the season as well. Obviously, we took the lead in that game, and then suddenly we let Burnley back in the game. Obviously, this was probably worse considering we were 2 up, not just 1, and against 10 men. But it was disappointing. But of course, brilliant that we got the win in the end.
I think you've also got you've also got the Southampton game. I think we were 3-0 up, and I know we had a man sent off 10 minutes and sent off, or 3-1 up, but we'd allowed them back in the game before that situation, and it does go back. I remember Alex Hurst doing a podcast with Rafa, or having spoken to Rafa and saying, why when we go 1-0 up, do the team automatically sit back? And he's like, I don't know, we don't tell them to do that. And I do wonder whether that's a mentality of the players thing of like, right, okay, we're ahead, don't lose this. Have they become kind of conditioned to not want to lose games of football?
Yeah, no, fully agree with you on that. Moving on now to some of your memories supporting Newcastle United. I think you mentioned this in the True Faith Writers Block, which is yet to come out, but will come out eventually. What is your earliest memory of supporting the club?
So my earliest memory of actually supporting the club is my first ever trip to St James's Park. I don't remember a time. I think I was about 4. And my dad took me to my first game. We beat Watford 2-0. I know Mark Corby very helpfully when I mentioned this on a previous group, and actually sent me video clips of the game, which I'd never seen back before. So that was my earliest memory of Newcastle United playing a part in my life. I mean, I'd always, it sounds stupid, but my dad always went to the games. So kind of Saturday afternoons I spent with my mum and my little brother. So I was aware that Newcastle United was around. From that point onwards, though, it became a bit of an obsession. I mean, obviously I was lucky enough that I was like just really properly getting into football, kind of age 7, 8, 91, 92. Keegan keeps us up. And then obviously the following season we get promoted, and I suppose I spent my young football years like watching us run riot in the Premier League, and my early adulthood, we were running through the Champions League with Bobby and going to the UEFA Cup semi-final. There was a brilliant 10-day period where I think we played Lisbon home and away and Cardiff for Man United. And before, on the build-up to that, you thought, like, this is going to be brilliant. We beat Sporting Lisbon at home. That's brilliant. And I think on the Thursday night, we went 1-0 up. Kieran Dyer scored. And I remember one of my friends saying, come back from that. Like, obviously, we had the away goal, but literally straight away, they went and scored 4, I think. And from that point onwards, kind of the Souness regime was falling apart. Obviously, there's great memories from being a Newcastle fan. The cup finals are bittersweet. But probably, when you look back, I mean, we mentioned Barcelona as a young fan, but you didn't really appreciate how good it was to beat Barcelona when I was like 13. I couldn't really appreciate that. But there's been some great games, giving Spurs a couple of hidings, 7-1 and 6-1 and stuff like that. Those were great days.
Yeah, certainly. Are there any players you idolised growing up out of interest?
Well, my first proper favourite player, I had a bit of a soft spot for Mark McGee, but that was when I was 4, and just because he played up front, and him and Mick Quinn scored goals.
Yeah.
But my first proper hero was Robert Lee. 700 grand from Charlton, convinced that it was easier to get from Newcastle to London than to Borough.
Certainly was the story, yeah.
Yeah, but he was brilliant, and within 2 years of signing for us, he was in England national, scored in his debut. The other thing that I would probably say, which is a little bit different, I suppose, is that after that, I didn't really have like a hero, but like, there's been players who you've thought like, Ginola was very good, and you could tell Ginola was very good, but there were fleeting moments. I really rated Gary Speed as a footballer, especially towards the end of his career. Out of the current crop, there's not really one who you would say that. I mean, St. Maximin's he's a great footballer, great talent, but we can't get away from the fact that before the Crystal Palace away game last year, in this season, he's pretty close to getting dropped because he just wasn't delivering on the pitch. Probably the closest I've come to a player who I've really liked since was Danny Guthrie and Johan Kabaya. I thought they were proper footballer ball players. Danny Guthrie's career went on a bit of a downward spiral from leaving us. But that season we got out of the Championship, I remember him coming in. I think Alan Smith and Joey Barton had started as a centre midfielders, and eventually Guthrie took over in the centre midfield, and he looked a really, really good football and started well in the Premier League, but he just wasn't fit to lace Johan Kabay's boots, unfortunately.
Yeah, Kabay was fantastic. Like, that was the first in 11-12 when Kabay signed and we finished 5th. That was my first season ticket that I had.
Good time.
It was a great time to have a season ticket for the first time. Out of all the memories you've just discussed, or any others that you might have, do you have a particular best memory? If you had to pick
it's sort of tinged with regret, but also so basically football was what me and my dad did. Like that was our relationship was mainly based around football. I say did, like it's not like he's dead, but our relationship is like mainly revolved around Newcastle United Football Club. And 2011-12 was his last season. He actually stopped going to games when they sacked Chris Hughton. And when they saw Andy Carroll, said, "That's it. I'm not going back. I'm not renewing my ticket." Sorry, 2010-11, sorry, I should say. Yeah. And so that meant one of the last games he went to was Newcastle 5, Sunderland 1.
Yeah.
And he'd refused to buy anything in the ground. But I think we were 2-0 up or 3-0 up at half time. And he said, right, this might be the last derby that I go to, whatever, this will never happen again. I'm going to go down and get. So having that experience with my dad, of sitting next to my dad for a 5-1 win over Sunderland, I don't think I'll ever kind of forget that.
That's a really good story.
Especially watching Shola peel away as if he's just got a hat-trick when Kevin Nolan scored his hat-trick. But that would probably be up there as one of my best memories of being Newcastle fan.
That's really good. And finally, just to sum things up, obviously, there's talk of takeover that still rumbles on. Obviously, there's this whole European Super League that's causing the world of football to burn down in some sort of flame at the moment. How would you like the future at Newcastle United to look?
I think there's two parts to that. I'm personally of the opinion that the takeover's gone, that it doesn't exist anymore, and I know that people disagree with that, and that's perfectly fine. They've got their right to believe that, but I just don't believe. PIF have given no indications, from what I can see, of certainly publicly, that they're back at the table since July when they've pulled away. So I personally think the takeover's gone. Obviously, would I want someone else to be in charge of the football club? Absolutely. And that the 1892 pledge is a good stepping stone towards having some sort of fan ownership, which is kind of what's being mentioned now around kind of the German clubs and stuff with the European Super League. But I don't think Alex would disagree with me saying like it's a complete pipe dream to imagine that we're going to raise 350 million and go and buy the football club off Mike Ashley. But someone at some point is going to decide that it's a worthwhile investment. Probably not at the price that Mike actually thinks he's going to get, but we'll consider it a worthwhile investment. All I want I think it's all anybody wants from a football club, is to be able to put your hope and aspirations into it without feeling like, that it's going to be completely destroyed. I know Newcastle United fans get a lot of criticism nationally for having too high expectations, and I did the Eight as a Dan of Football podcast with Tim Lovejoy the other day, and he said something to me that like what's it been like supporting the club for the last 10 years? And I made the comment, Liverpool claim they had 30 years of hurt between 1990 and 2020.
Crimea River.
Winning the league.
Crimea River.
Sorry, 2 European Cup finals, winning one of them. Sorry, 3 European Cup finals, 4 European Cup finals, winning 2 of them. That's Crimea River if you think that's 30 years of hurt.
Yeah.
And look, I know there's clubs where it's often us, Bury don't exist anymore. Macclesfield, clubs that were league clubs that have had really, Portsmouth nearly went to the wall. Obviously we're not saying that we're in that position, but if Mike actually walks away and says he wants all his loans back at the same time, then we could be in that position. And all I think most people want is a football club that they can actually rally around and have hope around it. I remember that Ben Arthur flag, which had hope written underneath his face, Che Guevara. Newcastle fans aren't looking. We don't expect to win games of football 5-4 every single week. What you want is to have a team that you can build around, that you can say, right, yeah, well, they're playing for the shirt. They're proud to be playing for Newcastle United. And a team that you can say that for 90 minutes actually genuinely cares about the results. And I know sometimes, we do give some of the players a hard time. We do give some of the players a hard time, and sometimes we are a little bit unfair on some players. Jon Dahl Tomasson probably looks back on his time at Newcastle with massive regret. But there are also people, and I think Warren Barton sums it up quite well. If you give your all to Newcastle fans, they will give you everything back. Yeah. They will allow you your off days because they can see you trying your absolute hardest. Mm-hmm. I've watched some pretty poor players play for Newcastle, but as long as they were actually trying, you'd give them your support. It's the ones who weren't necessarily trying, or the managers who were bluffing and telling outright lies and then getting away with it. That they're the ones who've kind of fallen down the wayside and taken the mockery of the fans. And I just think we just want something to rally around and to be positive about.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of summing it up. Thank you, Stephen. That was really good.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. So that sums things up. As I say, thank you to yourself, Stephen, for coming on the show. And thank you all very much for watching. And how are the lads?